A lot of people like to use elongated eyeballs on cartoony characters, and there's a few tricks to making this work, right? Let me first just show you what the problem might be if you did that. So here's a sphere. Obviously, if it rotates, it takes up the same space. If you have an elongated object, you can imagine the surface of the face being here. If you look down or up, you could imagine the eyeball penetrating the front of the face. So to deal with this, I'm going to use a lattice. So I'll create a sphere and make sure the pole of the sphere is facing forward. After I do that, I'm going to freeze transformations. And then to elongate it, I'm not going to scale it long. I am going to use a lattice. So from create deformers, I'm going to choose lattice. And then adjust the shape of the lattice to make the eyeball the shape that you want it. So I'll just scale up the lattice itself, and I've made the eyeball longer that way. Now, ostensibly that works, but you'll probably notice a little problem here if you watch closely. You see it kind of popping there, that little pop? That's because the surface of the sphere is too close to the edge of the lattice, and the points go through it and then they pop. So I'm going to go into my outliner and select both the lattice and the lattice base. These two things were created when I created my lattice, and it's important you do those together. And I'll go ahead and group them, Control G. Okay. And now when you scale those together, like before we were just scaling up the lattice, not the lattice with the base, but when you scale them up together, it doesn't change the shape of the surface. But when you scale them individually, like if I just click on that and scale it, see it does change the shape of the surface. So if I select that group that I just made and scale it, I can make the lattice bigger without affecting the surface. I just hit the up arrow to select the group, make that nice and big, and now rotate this. So now you can see that when you rotate it, it wouldn't penetrate the surface because it's maintaining its shape. That's good, but now we need to texture it, and this is jumping ahead a little bit, but that's okay, just so this is self-contained. I'm going to go into the hypershade, and I'll make a Lambert, which is a kind of material, and I want to assign that to this surface. So I'll select the surface, go back into the hypershade, and right mouse click Assign Material to Selection. So now this material is assigned to that surface. And then I'm going to go down to Color, hit the little map button next to Color. And if I just created a ramp, like a regular ramp, what would happen is that the pupil of the eye would also be stretched and elongated, just like the surface is. So instead of doing it that way, I'm going to right mouse click on ramp and say Create as Projection. So it's projected onto the surface, much like a slide projector would be. And then here I can see this at the bottom here. I'm going to hit this button to reorganize my graph here. And you've got the ramp, and you have this 3D texture placement tool, which you can see, that's this green box right here. And I just need that scaled up so that it's bigger than the eyeball. Okay, so now I'm going to adjust my texture. So I'm going to hit 6, and I can see it's nowhere near what I want it to do right now. So I'm going to go back in the hypershade, and in the same work area, I'm going to click on the ramp itself, which is this icon. And first I'm going to make it a circular ramp. Let's change this to, let's actually make sure that's selected and change this to perspective view. Okay, so now I can see what's happening. And then I'll scroll down here, and this is the ramp. I'm going to adjust the ramp, and you can see that changing the image there. And I can make a pupil. And what you'll notice is that it's round. Okay, it's not elongated like the rest of the eyeball, which you'll probably want. You can also add another color in here. And let's say, I don't know, green eyes. Here's our selected color. And see how it's blurred there. You can adjust these so they're exactly lined up, or you can just change the interpolation to none, and you'll get them sharp, and then you can just adjust the sizes here. adjust to taste. You can see that it doesn't look like this is moving with it. And there's a couple ways to get that to stick on there. Once you're sure you have this the way you want it to look, you can convert it into a file texture. So to do that, select the surface, go into your hypershade, shift select the material, edit, convert to file texture. And if you look at the options, you can choose the size. Maybe 512 would be a little bit better for this. And convert and close. And what it's done, if you look at this graph here, I know this is probably new to you, is this is the one I created before. This is the new one. It's much simpler. It looks kind of weird, but that's how it's mapping this texture onto the eye. So now if we go back here, this is the new texture, and you can see that it does in fact move with it. A couple of important points when using this. You're going to want to have the eyeball grouped along with the lattice and lattice base. So you can see I've got one group called IR for the right eye, and that's got both the sphere and the group that includes the lattice and lattice base. So I just select that group, select the eye, Control G for group, and name that IR. And then when you parent that to your head joint, when you create your character, you'll want to do that whole group and not just the eyeball. Because if you move the eyeball outside of the lattice, you can see it doesn't work anymore. So those have to stay together as a group. The other thing is that you cannot delete history off of the eyeball or the lattice won't work anymore.